Well, I've made it to November. But let me take a step back before we get into this. For the last few years, my friends and I have done our own Monsterbash, inspired by the Monsterbash hosted by Trent from Miscast. And for the last 31 days, I have been working on this abomination. My friends and I each make 10 prompts, and then randomly pick 6 from the combined pool of prompts. If you want to see how it got to this point, take a look at the playlist on my channel. I'm a kitbasher first and foremost, so I'm going to keep this painting relatively simple, starting with a basic zenithal highlight. Before I did anything else, I also coated the underside of the wooden base with a mixture of Mod Podge and black paint. Once that was all dry, I started with a thick coat of Guilliman flesh, using a large brush for the bulk of my monster, and a more typical brush for around the noble's dress. I then used a mix of 1 part Flesh Tearers Red and 2 parts Contrast Medium and painted inside the toothy maw. I then made up a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Magos Purple and Contrast Medium and attempted a light tint to the monster's skin. With my skinned rabbit looking pink and fleshy, I moved on to his noble rider. I painted her boots, gloves and corset with Black Templar. For her dress, I used Azaman Blue, Apothecary White for her mask and wig, and her hand fan in Eldari Emerald. I also put a little bit of Flesh Tearers Red in the holes where the hooks peel back the skin. At some point I also did Guilliman flesh for her face, Basilicum Grey on the chain and hooks, and Nighthaunt Grey on her petticoat. Oh, and Agros Dunes on the base. Now, with all the main colours blocked in, I could move on to a nice quick easy dry brush. I always start dry brushing with the base, so I get the rhythm before I start working on something important. Here I'm using pale sand, and I will be using that paint a lot. Once I've worked out how to dry brush, I use more pale sand to dry brush the entirety of the monster's blotchy skin. I use dark flesh and roughly base coat the skulls, doing the same with pale sand for the teeth. I then give both a good bath with Agrax Earthshade, making sure to go heavy on the skulls, and that the majority of the wash ends up at the base of the teeth. Once dried, I brighten the skulls back up with more dark flesh, but covering less than my first time around. Another bath of Agrax Earthshade should blend the layers in together nicely. I then use the aptly named Off-White to give the final highlight, before drowning them again in more Earthshade. I now use my dwindling supply of Nuln Oil more sparingly, over the chains, the hand fan, and a simple pin wash between the mask and the hair. While focusing on the mask, I use some white paint to make it more phantom-ish. For the petticoat and dress, I mix up some medium blue and pale sand. This is in no way an exact ratio, I just mixed the 2 colours together in different amounts until it looked right for the 2 different blues. I made sure to pay particular attention to the back of the dress, trying to use my highlights to cover up the harsh edges and tool marks left by my shoddy sculpting. For someone who doesn't like painting, I have to say I really enjoyed this part, especially the puffy shoulders that I think turned out surprisingly well. here I mixed up some red with some dark flesh. I think there may be some pale sand in there as well. I then used this pinky peach color to highlight the fleshy bits inside the mouth. After that, I gave the chain and hook a little bit of a brush with some lead voucher. The last touch was to add some water to my red flesh sand concoction and use it to color the inside of the rabbit's ears. I also used a tiny bit of this to give some color to the noble's lips. With that done, I cleaned up the rim and was ready to give this guy a matte varnish. All I had to do was wait for the rain to stop. The rain didn't stop. But my friends are not revealing our monsters to each other until the evening, so I still have time. After my monster had some matte varnish, I still needed to add some drool. I planned to use the old Yoo-hoo glue trick, but the only Yoo-hoo glue I could get was this stuff, and it does not make good slime. But after leaving the glue for a few minutes, it started to thicken up, and I thought I could still use this. Unfortunately, it was just not working. I cut a lot of the more emotional footage here, but at this stage, I thought I had ruined everything, and I was moments away from giving up on this whole project. But after a little bit of a breakdown, I used some tweezers and my knife and some super glue to try and salvage the Yoo-hoo glue disaster. I then coated the inside of the mouth with gloss varnish, making sure to put some on the lips. I also glossed up the little skin hook holes to make it look extra wet and gory. And with that panic attack of an ending, I was done. I look forward to Monsterbash every year. This is the 4th year my friends and I have done this. And if you have a group of friends or even just a group of people who want a creative outlet, I cannot recommend enough that you try something like Monsterbash. Make your own prompts with your group, or you could use the prompts that Miscast and the other people from the quote-unquote official Monsterbash did this year. But don't try to be like them. Don't try to be like me. Monsterbash is about making something, anything. Over the years, I have had friends make cosplays, made dice, make candles, and even a song based on their Monsterbash prompts. It's not about what you make, it's that you made something. 'Cause why not? Starting with a slap chop style.